Last September, 911 outages in eastern Nebraska caused serious concern. Officials with a telecommunications carrier appeared in front of the Nebraska Public Service Commission today.
6 News' Joe Harris tells us what's been done to keep this from happening again.
During a hearing Thursday, Windstream's operations president told the Nebraska Public Service Commission a third-party contractor accidentally cut the water line while installing a new natural gas line during the week of August 28th.
As a result of this line cut, water leaked into Windstream's transformer room located in the office basement. This caused a fire and small explosion, which resulted in a short to the ground wire on the main AC bus bar, ultimately leading to the loss of commercial power.
Hedrick says by September 2nd, the backup generator its site switched over to failed, leading them to rely on backup batteries. He says after 6 hours, the batteries got critically low.
Windstream's operations and engineering team made the difficult decision to shut down one of the switches in an attempt to preserve power for the other 2 switches. By also proactively shutting down a switch, Windstream was able to avoid an equipment crash, which would have resulted in nearly catastrophic failures for the switch and greatly extended the outage duration.
But that led to a shutdown of service in southeast Nebraska for around 4.5 hours. People were not able to make 911 calls during that time. Hedrick tells the Public Service Commission that Windstream has taken steps to address the issues that occurred.
Windstream's facilities management vendor, at Windstream's direction, has since established a contract with NMC CAT located here in Lincoln. Should a backup megawatt generator be required in the future, we now have one just down the road.
But State 911 Director David Sankey says services in the southeast part of the state were also experiencing disruptions in late November, causing 911 calls to fail for around an hour.
Windstream has determined that the failure was the result of a manufacturer bug that prevented the meta switch from recovering automatically.
Windstream says it has since restored the alarms on devices to ensure timely reports for future outages, and that it's updating the network route so traffic would follow an alternate path if something like this happens again. On your side, Joe Harris, 6 News.
And provider Lumen will also answer questions about outages during a separate hearing January 4th.